Hello nerds, welcome back to an episode of Plugin Police. Today, the plugin we'll be policing is Omnosphere 3. Yes, every torrent using 12-year-old FL Studio user's dream has finally come true. Make sure to hit the like button or else Hassan will shock his dog again. So I've heard. A quick note before we begin, Spectrasonics did send me this software, but I'll be just as critical as I am with every other plugin. So what is Omnisphere 3? It is a synth plugin, kind of a rompler. In this new version, they've added thousands of new sounds. Old patches have been remastered with new features. The Volume 3 full library, including Volume 2's library, takes the same amount of space as Volume 2. They've added new adaptive global controls, allowing you to have quick macro control over a patch, which should make it easier to work with complex patches. They've added full MPE support. They've added a mutate feature, which allows you to mutate patches subtly or on an extreme level. And this is by far my favorite feature, by the way. They've added quad zone modulation, 36 new filter types. I'm not gonna lie, that's too many filters. They've added circuit modeled saturation, the world's first polyphonic dual frequency shifter, which can fully track the keyboard. They've added vintage oscillator drift. In my experience, this so far sounds great. They've added quite a few more electronic music wavetables, unison phase scatter, classic synth glide modes, 300 new hardware profiles. They've upgraded the effects, adding 35 new FX units. I'll show those on the screen briefly. Make sure you want to pause if you want to look at them here. Creative FX, EQ, console sounds, reverb, and more. They've also turned the Omnisphere FX into its own plugin. So the download installation process were rather chill, considering it takes 120 gigabytes of space, and I installed it on both my laptop and PC because they happened to drop it the day before I got ACL surgery. Part of the reason why this review is a little bit late. So my first impression of the UI is I'm still not a huge fan of it. I really think it was time to upgrade the UI, especially the preset navigation system. That is the one thing I can get on board with, but I'm not happy with it. I do think version 3 did warrant an interface update at this point, but they did add a lot of other things too, so you know, it's basically like designing a new plugin at this point. I know this is a small detail, but the way something looks matters a lot when you're going to be utilizing it every day, sometimes all day. And there are other small things that could have been redesigned better, in my opinion. The main thing really for me is the preset navigation though. For instance, the fact you have to click on a directory or category before being able to pick a sound. I could see this being confusing for complete noobs. Thankfully, I'm not one of those, huh? I do appreciate how there's a little highlight box. That way noobs will most likely not miss it. But I feel like by default, it should have all sounds selected and that category already opened. Maybe part of the reason they didn't do this was because of potential lag it may cause when you open the plugin. I don't know, but that would make the most sense to me while opening it. I do think the favorite/rating system could be designed a bit better too. As it is currently, you cannot rate patches in the side window. I don't know about you guys, but I mainly use the side window for presets. I don't open up the preset window, which requires an extra click, and it's another window on top of the current window. And because I have to do this, it leaves me not messing with it at all. Even having the ability to right click on a patch and then rate it, or even just click like, would be very useful in my opinion, especially when you're dealing with a plugin as vast as Omnisphere. Now, I know the match feature has been around for quite some time, but it's been a long time since I used Omnisphere, so I'm just gonna address everything here. The match feature is one of my favorite things about this. I actually think I may like this more than the mutate feature. Granted, the mutate is a new feature and the match is not. Basically, with the match feature, you can select a sound and then you click match and it'll show you a bunch of similar sounds. What I love about this is they're not always super identical, so you'll find some cool things often, at least in my experience. So one of my critiques of Omnisphere in the past is that there are too many mid/decent sounds, and after messing with it again since then, I think I have to reword that. I still stand by my opinion, but I do think I worded it incorrectly originally. Now, the correct wording, in my opinion, would be that a lot of the sounds are vanilla. Now, that could be a good or bad thing depending on how you look at it. It's a good thing because when you're looking for a sound and you find it, it'll be accurate to what it describes. And for me, I kind of consider it a bad thing as well, because a lot of times when I'm looking for presets, I'm looking for inspiration. And now when I'm looking for inspiration, I'm looking for strange things. I'm not always looking for something that's by the book. I feel like weird sounds spark a lot more creativity for me than, acid patch number 5. Don't get me wrong, there are some strange sounds in Omnosphere, but they are few and far between. is a surprising lack of respace sounds. Now, I know that's probably not the intended audience here, but I feel like with the third version of this, we should really try to be a bit more all-encompassing when it comes to different types of production. Now, there are a few nice respace sounds, but current has at least 5 to 10 times as many. I'd say there's about 10 or less respace sounds, but the ones that are there are very good. Now, you could solve this issue by mutating the sounds, but you don't have a ton of control with that. You can also tweak the previous sounds manually or create your own sounds from scratch. Another thing is there's almost no neuro presets, which I shouldn't really be surprised because there's not a lot of respace patches. You can't really expect neuro bass because I feel like more people know about res patches than neuro bass. Though I can't really imagine too many people buying Omnisphere specifically for neuro-based patches, but it was just a thought that crossed my mind while I was experimenting with different genres while making this. Speaking of that, cool patch name. I didn't know they hired my ex to make a sound for them. Now I would say the piano sounds are pretty nice. Again, there's not a ton of them, but I do think the ones that are there are good, and there's a variety of different tones, including noise, etc. Things from detuned to icy sounding, whatever you want. I'm not always looking for the cleanest sounds. I'm looking for stranger, weirder, inspiring sounds. Now, one issue I've noticed while going through sounds is the search engine. When I search for something, I'm getting quite a few unrelated inquiries. For instance, when I searched piano, I was finding things such as reverse piano. Not a problem. But I was also finding things such as cinematic drums, guitars, and whatever else. So I do think the search could be a bit better, especially for something as large as Omnosphere. Thankfully, in the search function, you can select keywords, which solves the issue. But if the word you're searching for is not there, then you're shit out of luck. Thankfully, they do have quite a few keywords that they have labeled these patches with. Now, I will say the sound quality is supreme. No complaints as far as that's concerned. It's very clean. I've gotten compliments on how clean it is even. Let me know your thoughts on this here. Is this clean? My analysis of the sound library thus far is that it's really good and for the most part vary by the numbers, which can be good or bad depending on how you look at it. Granted that the sound library is so big, there's pretty much something in there for everyone. In future expansion packs, I do think Spectrasonic should really focus on strange and out there sounds because they really have enough by the number sounds, okay? I want weird shit. I want to be surprised when I click on a patch. Don't get me wrong, that happens sometimes, but not as often as I would like. Sadly, I do not have an MPE compatible controller anymore. I did have a Push 3, but I basically sold it right after I did a review with it. What can I say? But I did mess with it in Ableton's MPE mode. And I'm not going to lie, I haven't really been a big user of MPE. When you don't have a controller, it's a lot of extra work to be programming pitch bends for different notes. I did test it with this though, and I got to say, I've been missing out. Now, I was messing with it with Ableton and with Omnisphere. One thing worth noting, if you are somebody utilizing Ableton with Omnisphere and you haven't messed with this in the past, you are going to have to enable the MPE mode on the device you're using it on. Check out this patch where I had the notes individually pitch bend differently to different notes within the chords. It's pretty fun sounding and will make a boring chord progression sound not so boring. Now, the biggest question of them all. Is it worth the money? Now, this is going to be very hard for me to answer. One, because I didn't fucking pay for it. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I didn't fucking pay for it. And I don't even know if I would have paid for it just because there's a lot of synth sounds out there already. There's a lot of synthesizers, synth plugins, whatever. It's really hard to argue for paying $500 for this thing. Now, it definitely depends on the circumstances. For instance, if you have Omnisphere 2 and an MPE controller, $200 for an upgrade allowing you to control MPE within it and having much more sounds. I feel like if you have $200 and you make money from music, that's not a hard decision to make. Now, spending $500 on it from scratch, definitely a harder decision to make, especially if you're not making a lot of money from music already. If you're somebody that scores movies or whatever, something that will generate money from music, then I definitely think it's a little bit easier to justify this purchase. But either way, you should take my opinions here with a grain of salt. Like I said, because I'm going to pay for it. And I really think that's how it should be whenever you're watching a review from someone that hasn't paid for it. I mean, of course, people are going to tell you it's worth paying for when they haven't paid for it and they have some sort of financial benefit for you to pay for it, such as an affiliate link or whatever, right? But yeah, like I said, I was already pretty satisfied with my sounds and my DAW before this. And another thing about Omnisphere, it's not just about the money, it's about the space. It takes so much space. That's one of the hardest things to justify for me. But like I said, if you're somebody who scores films, TV shows, etc., there's so many sounds for you to use in this. There's so many ways to use it. Now, if you're an electronic music producer, it is lacking some variety in certain sounds. If you're into particularly niche electronic sounds, I don't know if this is the best for you, but there are a lot of good things in here as well. Just maybe not always exactly what you're looking for. And I think with Omnisphere, you can pretty much get by as any sort of producer unless you're purely recording real instruments. Then if that's the case, what are you even doing here? So I can't really give you a straight yes or no by this. And realistically, you should be listening to the individual things I'm saying or mess with it yourself and kind of make that decision on your own. Now, if I had to give Omnisphere a rating, separating it from the money, like if I'm not including how much it costs, I would probably give it like a 9. When I'm integrating the cost, maybe an 8. It's really hard to justify the price and space, in my opinion. There is no easy answer for a plugin this big that costs this much. Now, obviously, you don't need all synth plugins in existence, so there's definitely a few plugins that would be more suited for certain people in certain genres. But if you're somebody that likes multi-synths, as in like synthesizers that can have multiple patches at once or even have multiple patches playing at different parts of the keyboard, or utilizing MPE, Omnisphere is kind of a no-brainer, as long as, you got the money to back it up. If you're interested in buying this plugin, there will be an affiliate link down in the description. Any support is appreciated. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here. Otherwise, Hassan threatened to shock his dog. He called me earlier about it. Bye.